Hey YouTube, I apologize for the slurred speech. They're hitting me with their weapons right now, and I got dry mouth. I want to get this video out. This is the fourth time I'm making it. The last one, I had to redo, but too many interruptions. But this one, hopefully, I can get it done in under 30 minutes. So I wanted to bring forth a talking point and then discuss fusion centers. So the talking point is vigilante for profit justice. What could possibly go wrong? And then we're going to talk about fusion centers, what they are, and what their role is in all of that. Because what's happening in this country, it's pretty bad. Fusion centers around the country, originally established to identify, prevent, and protect against domestic terrorism and criminal threats, are instead being utilized to execute criminal and terroristic acts on innocent civilians. I understand that this is a heavy-handed accusation, but we're going to delve into it, and I'm going to provide references from very reputable sources, okay? I'm not just going in fully loaded with nothing to back it up. I cannot make this up. A program our political and public leaders would openly condemn any other nation for instituting has been instituted here in America. And it's being well funded, and it's being mobilized and centralized through your local fusion center. A program that violates individual privacy and completely walks all over civil liberties, and constitutional rights. So happy New Year's, it's 2020, and here we are in the United States, and we're still facing a serious civil liberties dilemma. It raises the question, as the self-appointed leader of the free world, is this the one issue that we can't get right? Is this going to be the nail in the coffin for America? Because it's been 400 years, and we still, to this day, cannot provide equal liberties across the board for individuals, whether it be race, creed, color. But let's not get it twisted. This transcends all of that. It doesn't matter your race. It doesn't matter your color. This is people. We'll go into who it is. We'll go into why. But yeah, this transcends it all. This is probably the biggest, the biggest disregard of civil liberties in American history. And I mean, again, that's a loaded statement, but I can almost guarantee you. Okay. The rabbit hole gets deeper. It involves corporations, state, local governments, various military and law enforcement agencies, private organizations, security firms, and even the big defense contractors who draw from the defense budget and then allocate additional funding just for this civilian program. This is not overseas. I mean, this is civilian. So why would defense contractors have an interest in a civilian program? We're going to dig into that. We are investing in each other's demise and the surefire ruin of our children. Fact. This is creating moral ambiguity. This is creating issues with our this is creating a different future for our kids. Monetizing this is a slippery slope, and we're already sliding down. We're already going down. First, I wanted to reference a report issued by the ACLU. It's a report on fusion centers, and it's very informative. If you don't know what a fusion center is, I'm going to give a brief description of it based off of their website. Each fusion center is different, and that is highlighted here in the ACLU report. The report is called What's Wrong with Fusion Centers. I put the link in the description, so feel free to click that. Actually, I really would advise you to click it. It's informative, very informative, and it highlights glaring issues of the institution and substantial impacts it has on our privacy and civil liberties as everyday Americans. So this is not just terrorists, this is everyday Americans, right? Firstly, what is a fusion center, right? A fusion center, as defined on its website, is a collaborative effort of two or more agencies that provide resources, expertise, and/or information to the center with the goal of maximizing the abilities to detect, prevent, and apprehend a response to terrorist and criminal threats. Okay, so if you noticed, that definition, it was wide open. I mean, it could range, like, who are the agencies as discussed and outlined and highlighted in the ACLU report? Who are these agencies? Who helms it? It's under the Department of Homeland Security. But who helms it? Who's running it? Who are these collaborative agencies? These could be anybody. This could be private agencies. These could be public agencies. Like, this is very just broad. It's open. It's wide-ended, and it's a concern because everything done in these fusion centers are private and off limits. So, to the fact ACLU, they are suing the FBI for more information and transparency on fusion centers. So you can see why this is an issue, because it mobilizes groups like InfraGard, Citizens on Patrol, and so it's a pretty heavy hitting issue with potential privacy implications and definitely suppression of civil rights, which we're going to get into. Okay. What is a criminal threat, and what is a terroristic threat? What is a terroristic threat? And then to what degree? Okay, so is this focused on the individual level, or is this focused on a crime ring? Because criminal threats, I would assume, would be the cops. I mean, they are law enforcement. So if the fusion center is now taking the role of that, I think that should be clarified, you know. And a lot of cities and counties and states, what they're doing, they're focusing on crime reduction. So crime prevention, and there's other implications with that, you know, to the point of where that power and that funding is coming from, and what implications is that bringing about on our society, right? Because crime prevention, in some instances, it's actually creating crime, right? So because it's being abused, like here. Let me find my footing real quick. Okay, so it says collaborative effort between two or more agencies, and I'm just going to discuss what some of the more well-known agencies are that are actually a part of this, right? It is the Federal Bureau of Investigations, obviously, Department of Homeland Security. I'm sorry, I'm being hit right now. Local police departments, military agencies such as Department of Defense, powers that are nothing to scoff at. Fusion centers fall under the Department of Homeland Security and draws from the defense budget. Originally established to help combat terrorism under the FISA Act, it is now being used to inflict critical financial, physical, and psychological harm on innocent civilians who are deemed as weak, victims of opportunity, or victims of revenge, corporate or personal. I fall under the corporate revenge, and I'll get into that at the end of the video. But I want to give you all this first, but definitely click the ACLU video. It highlights, it goes into detail the potentials of what is going on here. Very, very, very informative. Okay, so it's essentially used to, fusion centers it's a mobilization used to carry out personal attacks against private individuals by organizations, both private and public, profit or non-for-profit, foreign or domestic, under the guise of Neighborhood Watch, InfraGard, Citizens on Patrol, to circumvent or to prevent terrorist and criminal activity. It's like I said, it's a slippery slope, and we're falling already. We're already sliding. It serves as a mobilization of civilian armies and vigilantes. The road to hell is paved in good intentions, and we all want to be safe. We all want our neighborhoods to be safe. We all want a better future for our children. We all want that, but when money is involved, we can always be sure that someone's being jacked somewhere. And in this case, it's the victims. They're getting jacked heavily. The institution, its influence and affiliations are being controlled by special for-profit interest groups and individuals. Powerful people, they would have access to this because, look at the agencies involved, and then look at the community. Look at the community aspect of it too, like Neighborhood Watch, Citizens on Patrol. These are people who own property. So most of the people on the receiving end are going to be homeless. Or low wage. So this could be seen as a class war too. But like I said, corporate revenge, it includes all types, dissidents and whatnot. They're utilizing the defense budget and funding by the defense contractors to take out security risk assessment contracts on innocent average Americans. These contracts are awarded to private security firms, which then in turn generates substantial income and employment opportunities for security firms, 1099 contract positions with titles like surveyor role player or surveillance role player. These roles take all types: criminals, neighborhood watch vigilantes, private detectives, investigators, to surveil and sabotage the life of the victim. So the victim is then monetized, liquidated and monetized completely through this program, and people are getting paid for it through defense budget and defense contractors. And we're going to get into that in just 1 second, okay? All right. That's just one variety. The funding also comes directly from the defense budget and defense contractors. It's putting people to work and creating jobs. While it is solving a lot of financial problems for some, it is utterly devastating the lives of others in the process. To the point people are actually killing themselves. People are committing suicide. They don't understand what's happening to their lives because this is so covert. This is so under the table and hidden. They have no idea what's going on with their lives. I personally tried to commit suicide back in 2018 in December. I won't get too much into my personal, but I tried to commit suicide. My life was falling apart. I had no idea what was going on. Little did I know. This whole process, it creates a dog-eat-dog scenario. But the defending dog is usually devoured, i.e. killed themselves or have been murdered or arrested or put into a mental institution before they even know they're in a fight. So it's not a fair fight. And it operates heavily under a covert designation. What are these terroristic and criminal acts? Okay. Overt surveillance, organized harassment and stalking, electronic harassment with prototype projectile-less weaponry, energy weapons, which is what they're hitting me with now, to try to impede on me bringing the truth to you guys. But that is also where the interest and funding comes from entities such as Lockheed Martin, Raytheon. The weapons testing is also completely covert. Like I said, it's projectile-less. You don't know you're being hit with it. Much like the very basic details and operations of the fusion centers. It's completely covert. We don't know what's going on inside there. We don't know what's going on. But know that it causes, these weapons do cause long-term bodily injury that are in some cases fatal. They would like to say these are lethal, non-lethal, and less than lethal weapons, milliwave/microwave weapons, but I'm going to reference a article published by the New York Times. You guys probably heard of it. You probably read about it. You probably seen it in the news. But this is regarding the U.S. Embassy in Cuba and its workers and family members that stayed in the embassy. They were subjected to microwave weapons. The title of the article, and I put the link in the description below, microwave weapons are prime suspect in ills of U.S. Embassy workers. I'm going to read just a quick excerpt. Like I said, you might have heard about this, but it's serious. Doctors and scientists say microwave strikes may have caused sonic delusions and very real brain damage among embassy staff and family members. So along with this surveillance and these acts of financial sabotage, credit ruin, and employment blacklisting, which, by the way, is illegal in most states in the union, and it's happening here in Hawaii, it's illegal employment blacklisting. It is my belief that the weapons testing is thrown in there to silence. Simply put, they want to kill you or drive you crazy or drive you in an act to either bring harm to yourself or harm to others. This is completely just out of hand, and I'm not sure if a lot of people realize the full extent of what they're participating in. As the article stated, scientists, doctors had serious concerns with strikes, these weapons that cause sonic delusions and brain damage of the workers and their family members. This is the weapons contracting aspect, and where it becomes truly nefarious, because this is all by design. There's nothing in coincidence. This is by design, and that design is to incapacitate you before you can stand witness to this. There are also people that not only to surveil you, but what they're doing is they're riding around and putting their cameras on you to gather your biometric data. And if that isn't proof enough that this is because of weapons testing, people that are subjected to this, people that are on the hit list, they are followed and people are put in their way to take their biometric data. So that shows you just how coordinated and how much money this is. And this is all being hosted out of your local fusion center. It's wild. You would think this could not be, but it is, and it's happening, and it's tragic. I believe it's used to either permanently silence or severely discredit the victim, i.e. brain damage, etc. Yeah, that's a cop car with flashing its bright lights, orange lights for no reason. It's used to discredit the victim or to incapacitate them, whether through death, lockup, mental ward, the victim becomes a completed cash transaction before they even knew their value, before they even knew their worth and what they could fully accomplish in this world. People are being shorted an opportunity on this earth, given by God, taken away by greed, and it's sad, it's messed up, and who are the victims? In a way, I'll cover this twice, but the victims are basically people who have applications submitted against them to the FISA court, which is not a public court, right? They have no idea that this application is being submitted against them, and it's based on a heavy bias by individuals, whether it's employers or private individuals. I mean, for revenge, or whether they're so gone or their lives, there's no way of defending themselves. These are submitted by people affiliated within the crime ring / fusion center. I'm going to call it the crime ring from now on, because that's what it is. Whether intentional or unintentional, that's what it's become. Bias and discrimination based on racism, sexism, classism, individuals with disabilities, both physical and mental, elderly, basically essentially focusing on those who are thought to be easy victims without skill, knowledge, or means to challenge their predicament. Individuals also victimized are based on revenge range in complexity, something as simple as a neighborly feud, with the wrong neighbor who has contacts, or corporate private sector blacklist, or public government blacklist from dissidents, whistleblowers, you know. And again, I believe my instance is personally a whistleblower because I caught onto a fraud, and I'll go over that at the end of the video. A fraudulent, a long-standing fraudulent ongoing thing that would happen at a company that I worked at. I'll go over that in the end. Maybe a different video. It's already running 20 minutes. So, who are the affiliates? As I mentioned, you have your local and federal law enforcement, as well as intelligence agencies. You have your state, local, and federal government bodies. You have any imaginable employer, corporate, both big or small, doesn't matter. Private for-profit, non-for-profit, public, doesn't matter. Government, doesn't matter. Ranging from private organizations, Ku Klux Klan, to mega churches, even the Shriners. In my personal experience, it has been a lot of Shriners and Freemasons that have been instigating a lot of what is being said here against me. So it's a vast network. It's a vested network. It's obviously a very powerful tool for the accomplices to use to silence and intimidate. And they have every motive and every reason to keep this in the dark and out of public eye, because it's so effective. It's so effective that they want to kill them. So who profits? Well, we've already discussed that, but let's go deeper, right? Pretty much everyone that's not on the kill list, the hit list. As you can see, the affiliates are broad and vast and delivers vigilante justice for profit. And of course, with severe discrimination bias. Security contracts, security firms, private eye investigators, defense contractors, the government, local, federal, prison industrial complex. If you snap and punch somebody, local funding for the psych wards. If you mentally snap, if you die, autopsy contracts fulfilled by the defense contractors to harvest information regarding the long-term extended weapons testing done on you. A lot of people profit. A lot of people profit off of this. It's very important that we recognize that and we don't overlook it, because this institution, it's a government institution, it's supposed to do good, and it has already been fully monetized, and before it has even been disclosed. A lot of their practices have even been disclosed. It's been fully monetized, and it's being used against the American citizen, the average everyday citizen. So on the list. Okay. How is one enrolled? We kind of discussed it. Applications are submitted against the victim's knowledge. In no way is the victim notified as the public. It's not a public court. This is a private court. This private look at FISA violations has been in the news against the Trump administration. It's been used and politicized, and it's not politicized at all. This is a serious topic, but it's being used against everyday Americans, and you can only look as far as YouTube or Google it. Like it's kind of a big thing of what's being done, and a lot of people don't realize that these are FISA court violations that are being done against them, because again, before they realize it, they're so overwhelmed with everything that's going on in their life, they probably don't have time to watch news. They probably don't have time to watch this video. In no way are the victims notified. In fact, they're not even represented at the hearing. There's no representation for them. Based solely on uncontested facts by any of these organizations or their affiliates, uncontested facts found through surveilling the target, illegally surveilling the target. It's submitted to FISA court, and then there's a hearing, and then there's a designation, and then they go on the watch list. And then again, I say, let's not mince words. It is a hit list. It is not a watch list. It is a hit list. Why? Why would anyone do this? And I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it again, and no one, you can deny it as much as you want. Money, money, money. It makes the world go round. Everyone loves it, apparently enough to kill their neighbor. Money, pure and simple. Security contracts, it's a boon to private security employment. You can hire, here on island, it's big because it's like a close, tight-knit network, whether you're frenemies, friends, or, enemies, long-standing rivals of families, it doesn't matter. It's who you know, not what, it's who you know, not what you know. So nepotism is pretty big on this island, but that's natural because this is a very isolated region. I can't imagine how it operates on the mainland, but I'm going to tell you here in Hawaii, it's big. Who wouldn't go capture some information of a stranger on a cell phone? They don't know, maybe they don't fully know what they're doing when they're capturing that biometric data and sending it back to the defense contractors, that they're assisting in killing someone. Maybe they don't know. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. But we're talking these surveillance role player roles that are popping up, 1099 contract jobs. This is a boon to the security industry. So they are one of them. They hire criminals. They actively seek criminals, people who can do these acts against people without questioning their conscience. So that is being utilized against the American citizens, criminals, and people who can do drugs, turn off their conscience, and become criminals. And this is also being used against them. So with criminals involved, you have liquidation of assets because they're privy to your private and personal information. You have identity theft, you have fraud, and it's severe because this is part of the financial credit ruin. Defense contractor payments and rewards. We're talking about Target gift cards in general, to eat. We're talking about home improvement things. They don't put you on a clock. They don't pay you an hourly wage, but they will give you some funding kickbacks like home improvements, renovations. They would give you gift cards. They would give you vacations, things like that. They will pay you in other ways and incentivize this program in other ways. And why are they doing this? Again, because they have people out there using these weapons against us. I feel it now, using these weapons against us, and then they have the other people there collecting and harvesting that biometric data and sending it back to them. So this is big money. And if I were to expire and die, right, they would then also offer a contract for results and privatized testing of my body, because they want to see the long going effects of these weapons. That's pretty much it. I do have the links in the comments below from the New York Times and the report that has been drafted by the ACLU. Check those out. Very informative. That's what's happening. Microwave, milliwave weapons are being used on citizens, and the fusion centers are mobilizing groups like InfraGuard, Citizen on Patrol, Neighborhood Watch, and they're weaponizing these programs, and they are it's monetized racket to put people on a government hit list and liquidate the person in every single way. It's human trafficking 100%, and it follows all of the definitions of the UN definition of human trafficking. So look that up. Google microwave, milliwave weapons. Google FISA violations. You'll see. So yay, it's under 40 minutes. So I'll go into quickly what happened to me, and why I believe I'm on this list. I work for an insurance company. They bought up a lot of these smaller insurance companies. This is a pretty big insurance company. It is a global insurance company. This was back in, I want to say, 2013. I had a very entry-level position. They originally wanted to offload their office procedures, their administrative, their claims handling services to a third-party administrator, and I acted as a transitional support agent in getting everything fully transferred over. So outside the day-to-day, we were working on projects that would, and again, this is entry level. We're working on projects that would serve to support the transitional function of from one company to another onto their system too. So I did that. Originally, before that, I was just someone who input claims, so basically a data entry person. So what I did in particular was they put me in billing. I had no idea about medical billing whatsoever, but we would send it to these medical billing, I forget what they're called, but they crunch the bill, right? And they basically do a review of the bill, and then they go by the fee schedule, and they crunch the bill for the insurance company, so the insurance company isn't paying as much. And that the doctor would ensure that the doctor in the facility is billing as needed. So we had 3 different companies. One that handled outpatient, like non-invasive surgeries and procedures, things like that, and they crunched those bills. And then we had one that handled physical and occupational therapy, and that crunched those bills, and those are like sort of broken up, like physical therapy, you might have it every week or every other week, so it's like $35 here, $35 there, $65 here, blah blah blah, right? And then you had one that handled your inpatient and your major surgery, right? Anything invasive, where they cut you open, anything operative, that's went to a different one. So those are the big bills that you'll see, like $10,000, $15,000, $25,000, like you'll see those. When I came on to that project, no one knew what they were doing. Everyone that had been on that project had been let go. So the people who were handling those functions, they had been let go. So a lot of it was touch and go and trying to figure it out the best we can. I hate to say, but my team leader, she was not very helpful. She was the type to chew bubblegum and twirl her hair. And in fact, her boss pretty much labeled me as the acting team leader because she was just really pointless in the whole process. And that's not me being rude, that's just me telling the truth. So we had 3 people from my office, maybe 4 people from my office, and then we had 3 people or 4 people in Atlanta. And the people in Atlanta, they had sort of been doing it, but they put me onto the transitional support so I could find new ways. I mean, I'm really good at that, finding better ways, and sort of getting rid of the things that are just not really sufficient, and inconsistencies and things like that. So they put me on the project, and I ended up assuming pretty much control of it. And we came up with a process to tackle the overwhelming phone calls and the huge backlog and the calls from the insurance companies and providers requesting where their money is. So we found a way to sort of minimize that, but we were spending a lot of time on the phone, so we had to find the source of the problem. And what I found was the source of the problem was a lot of unpaid bills, but there was a inconsistency in that bills were being sent to the wrong medical reviewer, And this was by design, and this was, we would find out later, this was a fraudulent activity. Like, they would send surgery bills to like the what do you call it, occupational therapy bill. So you got like a $25,000 bill that was broken down weekly over $35. So some of the people in these companies, obviously they had to be privy to it. So I mean, I don't know what level that was on, and I didn't even know that's what I found out. All I know is I was providing data in the backlog and the inconsistencies to both my employer and my previous employer. So I was working a lot with the business analysts and everything to sort of get a grip on it, but at the same time I was reporting information as I got them, because we were trying to improve the process, right? What happened was, eventually, as this incident rose and elevated in importance, what happened was that I became involved in some of the process, and then I was in these high-level meetings, and they would just basically tell me to shut up on the phone, just like you're stupid, shut up. And I didn't really know what to do, but eventually what they did was they arrived like overnight, and they wanted to fire me, but they let me go. They let me and the whole team go, that were handling these payments. They just wanted to wash their hands of it. From what I remember, they initially drafted a contract and paid a lump sum to a company to just pay everything off. I would find out later that my boss over me, from a confidential source, that my boss over me was told to fire me, and instead she stepped down because she refused to do that. She knew that I did no wrong, and I actually was trying to help. But turns out there were a lot of shareholders that were invested into this scam or fraud, and I think when I read about all this and I look at everything that's happened, and when I left the company, and then everything that happened after that, and even when I relocated to Hawaii, that there were all these emergency meetings and everything, that made really no sense because I was remote. I believe at that point, they probably put me on this government hit list out of revenge, corporate revenge, because they were afraid of what I knew or me testifying in the future. I don't know. But I do know I'm on this list. I do know that my life was pretty much turned upside down, and I would have checked out if it wasn't for God, like if he didn't intervene in my suicide attempt. But when I came to and I started realizing, a lot of things are not what they seem, and there was a lot of orchestration for my downfall. It wasn't just full-on failure. I take full responsibility of my role in my own destruction, but I can't be solely to blame for it because this was completely by design. That's why my personal testament is that these fusion centers must be stopped. It may not be their original intent or design, but these are dangerous, and they're creating big issues here in America, and there is real, serious impacts on real people that don't deserve it. So that's my story. I might go into detail later about it, I don't know, but I just want to give that to you guys with this whole thing so you can sort of add it together. But thank you for watching. Links will be in the description, so please click those. Click the ACLU report, click the New York Times article, microwave weapons are prime suspect in ills of U.S. embassy workers, to see what they're using on people like me and likely you, without your knowledge or consent. So please do look that up and take the discussion to task, and if you are one of these people that are sort of involved in this and you may not know the extent you're involved in, start questioning things, but definitely try not to participate in something like this. I know it's paying the bills and it's kind of hard to get by, especially in Hawaii, but I mean, think of it as if it were your brother or your sister or your kid or your mother or father. Just think of it like that, or your best friend or something like that. Try not to stay too objective, because this is affecting a lot of people. Anyway, thanks for watching. Links in the description. I hope you guys had a happy New Year's, and